I got a quote from you on that. You said, "Here's one lesson I wish everyone would learn. Rich people are more lucky than smart. Most of them are stupid as shit and just happen to make one right call one time. You deserve it as much as they do. Don't make them look like, don't make them make you think that they are special."
Yeah.
That's your quote.
And that applies to like a lot of self-made rich people. It's even worse if your parents gave you money. I'm like, that's the cringiest thing on earth, right? But yeah, I stand by I stand by that 100%, man. Most people think that like, oh, I don't have X, Y, or Z to take me to whatever that next level is, and it's like, nah, dude. I've met some people who are like, every city has like a lawyer, right? Like, and like they're on buses and they're on billboards or whatever, right? And like those lawyers are all making like tens of millions of dollars each, and they're stupid. Like they're just like, oh, I'm gonna chase ambulances like that guy in the other town, right? I'm gonna buy billboards, I'm gonna do that type of stuff. So, I too often I think we create financial success with like morality. One, that's why I think bankruptcy is totally fine. Like I don't think if you have money you're better, or if you lose money you're worse, right? I think too often in society we do that, and then we also just like assist it with like being good or smart or talented. It's like, nah, man, like those things can be totally different. There's incredibly talented people who have absolutely nothing, right? And it's just the world is not a perfect system like that.
Yeah, it's funny how we equate wealth to morality and intelligence. You would think that is the case. Like somebody who makes a lot of money should be smart in our heads, but then if you actually meet that person or those people, it doesn't actually work out and equate that way. And like, do you have any particularly notable examples or stories of like you meeting somebody you thought was way more impressive and actually meeting them and being like, oh, that's just a human being? Not, you don't have to share names or anything or whatever, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's a couple billionaires who threw a party in Austin, and it was like a poker thing, and I went there, and I just remember looking at them, and like a couple of them incredibly nice, super chill, awesome dudes hanging out with, and then a couple of them like, I'm like, oh damn, you're old as hell. Like I'm like, you're like my grandpa. It's like they're like old, they're disheveled, they're broken down, and I'm like, and like a ton of young people hanging around. I'm like, dude, all these people here just because like you're rich. And I'm like, that's sad as fuck. And yeah. So that's an example of like one of the times I realized I'm like, oh, these are people I really look up to for their business accomplishments. But then I'm like, oh damn, it looks like they have the saddest life ever. But like, look, I've been in a ton of meetings with bankers or buyers or strategic partners or people working at companies, and like, I mean, there's a private company that no one's ever heard of. Like they're super under the radar, but they do multiple billions a year in revenue in the consumer space, like 3 billion plus. And the guy running the business, I'm like, this is one of the dumbest people I've ever met in my entire life. Like just disinterested, just like, not thinking about like any upcoming black swan events. Like this is post COVID anyway. Yeah, dude, it happens all the time. Most people at the very top businesses suck. Now, very large corporations like the Apple team or the Meta team, like when you meet them, like their strategy is to hire like on paper the smartest, most compassionate, empathetic, like they really have like a type they like to hire, and it's like, oh, these are like A+ people, but there's a disconnect because they've been on traditional path for so long, like they can't really break shit down and operate, right? And I think that's why you have complacency at all these companies.